everybody. It is Dean Z speaking to you from the University of Michigan Law School. It has been a beautiful and quiet day here in Ann Arbor because classes are out and spring classes haven't started. And yet somehow every single noisy car within a 30-mile radius is driving down the street right in front of us. So we'll see how this goes. But okay, I today am going to do a Q&A episode because we've gotten a lot of questions over the last couple months, and then also since I mentioned that I'm going to be coming back. So let's get started, shall we? And we'll just dive right in. There will be in no particular order, but here's number one. Going on a law school tour this week, this is from Nicole, and it's with my pre-law frat, so my name won't be as out there as it would be if I signed up for the tour myself. Is it a good idea to send an email about how much I loved touring it afterwards? It's one of my dream schools. First, I just want to say I think it's sort of funny she hasn't done it yet, and she's already sure she's going to love it, which I love that energy for you, Nicole. Yeah, I actually think this is a very smart idea, and honestly, I don't think it would have occurred to me. As I've mentioned in other episodes, law schools aren't as into tracking your contacts with a school as a general proposition as most undergrad admissions offices are. But number one, some of them are, and number two, it doesn't ever hurt. So I think it is great to send a nice email just saying, thank you for, the time that you spent and how much you enjoyed it, blah, blah, blah. So that's smart thinking, Nicole. And yes, I think you should go ahead and do that. Here's one about LSATs. I took my first LSAT primarily as a trial run because I tend to feel very anxious about testing environments. This is from Damon. And I have OCD. I wanted to experience the process once before sitting for it officially. Given that, would you recommend canceling the score and addressing the reason in my application or keeping the score regardless of the outcome? So presumably when Damon asked this, he didn't know the answer yet, what his score was going to be. And now he does, and I'm probably too late giving him this advice. But for those of you who maybe want to do something similar, I would say either cancel the score and, roll the dice, or actually, what I think is, I hate to say this, I'm hesitating because I feel like I'm telling you to spend money, but I think it's probably pretty good advice. You can have score preview through LSAT, which, you have to sign up for. You can sign up for it in advance at one cost, and I think later you can sign up after you took the test at a higher cost. But I think given that you're taking it as an experiment, you really want to know how the experiment went. So canceling it without knowing that isn't the greatest for you. So I would say do score preview and make your decision that way if you're taking it just to do a dry run. Okay, here's a quick one. How are students with double majors and double minors in undergrad viewed in the admission process? It's really not much of a factor at all, honestly. What's a factor is your transcript itself. What kinds of classes did you take? But getting the designation that allows you to say something was your minor, or getting, qualifying to do two majors is in and of itself not a designation that most law school admissions offices that I'm aware of care about at all. So knock yourself out. And I know people like to be able to say this was a minor or this was a double major or whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think it's a huge factor in whether or not you get in. It's more about looking at the transcript itself. Okay, here's a fun one from someone who I know is not an applicant. She is someone I have known a long time in this business, Loretta. She wants to know, is albeit too ostentatious a word to use in an essay? And I would say absolutely not. Albeit just means even though, and it is a phrase that I use a lot. So maybe I'm ostentatious or something or whatever. But certainly it would not be for me. And I think it's a pretty normal kind of word. So I absolutely would not hesitate to use albeit in an essay. I think you're asking the right question. You don't want to have a bunch of words in an essay that you're sort of tripping over that cause you to stumble and think, what does that mean? So you can use albeit and, two more, but don't use 50 such words, okay? Make it sound like language that you're very comfortable using. People who've been watching my episodes will know that I say don't list stuff from high school, that life begins in college for these purposes. But we have a question here from Savannah who really doesn't like that advice. And so here's her particular situation. She played softball in junior college and then after graduation and even had a national championship, on and on about the, and now she plays an adult softball league of ex-college athletes. And she thinks it would be useful to relate that to the fact that she played high school varsity softball because her team were the state semifinalists. Savannah, we are not admitting you to softball school. So no, really, I mean it. Don't go back to high school. The fact that you're playing now, that's what we care about. What you did in high school does not enhance that, and it's just not necessary. So you're doing amazing stuff now, but you don't need to give me your full softball situation. I promise you. Life begins at college. Thank you. Okay, next we have a question from VYE6737. How would you suggest adding college experiences that are non-traditional to law? I majored in neuroscience and several of my college activities are related to that or STEM generally. Should I describe those or am I still good to just bullet point in education? Great question. In general, you want to explain anything that's not obvious. And you are right. Things that are law related will be, in general, more obvious to people working in a law school admissions office. But some things will be obvious, even if they're STEM, and some things will be not obvious, even if they are law. So that's really the frame that you want to be looking at this. Like, how likely is it that, the average person will know what this means? Average person familiar with law will know what this means, I guess, is the question. So there's no easy answer to this. Just step back and think about it and try and figure out how common knowledge the thing that you are doing is. And if you do feel that you should describe it, because it won't be otherwise known to the person who's looking at your resume, you don't have to go into great detail. You could just do a few words often, student group focused on blah, 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 something like that. So I would explain things if you think it's just going to completely pass someone by. Here's a question about someone who transferred universities. Does she need to list both universities or just the degree granting institution? Just on your resume, all you need to show is your degree granting institution. For the law school application process, we will see that you attended other schools. So that's taken care of. That will be, everybody asks you to list all your institutions. Sometimes it can be useful. It might be mysterious. Why did you transfer? Sometimes it's very obvious, like if it's an associate's degree or something, that's very obvious why you would have transferred. But if it's not obvious, you might want to put a quick addendum just explaining why you transferred. That's especially important if you transferred away from an institution where you are now applying to a law school. So just think about that. Here's another resume question. I've been at the same company for about 5 to 6 years, but I've worked many different roles while there. What's the best way to show multiple positions at one employer so it looks clear and professional? I believe in saying, here's the name of the employer and then stacking the roles. And I would start with the most recent, so whichever one you are currently in, and I would give detail about what you are doing in that job. And then depending on what the other jobs are, you might just be able to list those jobs underneath with a bullet point in the months or years that you were in those positions. If it's something very significant, that's quite different from what, if it's a straight line progression up to where you are now, then I think you just need to describe the most recent. If it's jumping around to very different kinds of jobs, then you might need to give a little more explanation. But you said, 5 or 6 jobs in many different roles. You don't want to have, one full page of your resume be this one employer. So you do need to think about how to be concise and draw it together. I will also note that you say you're 22, so that means 5 to 6 years ago. Some of that was in high school, so I would not belabor that. Now, that one, okay, now I'm contradicting myself because you do have to say when you started, and if you started in high school, so be it, right? But you think about that. You might, maybe you leave off that first roll. No, that doesn't sound right. Sorry. Just don't spend too much time talking about high school. List the roll, list the time, list all the rolls. But again, we don't really care about what you were doing in high school. That sounded rude. I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean it's not particularly important to the law school process. Here's one about multiple LSATs. This is another topic that I have addressed, I know, before, because I'm a little obsessed with it, but I think it's worth saying it multiple times. So someone named Maddie has said she has taken the test 4 times, and here are her scores: 174, 172, 173, 171. She is not thrilled, she says, about the downward trajectory. However, I'm still possibly foolishly debating taking a 5th exam because she is convinced she could do better, she said, because she is consistently scoring in the 177 to 180 range when she's taking practice exams. Maddie, it is foolish. Stop taking it. Stop taking the test. 170 and 177 rather, and 174 are the same scores. There is no statistically significant difference between those scores. Like, in general, there's a score band of about 6 points where admissions offices are, sort of keeping those scores as all equivalent. And you specifically say the scores that you have are competitive for the schools you are interested in. I might feel differently if you're like, I am below median on the LSAT for my dream school. I might say, okay, try it again. But that's not what you're telling me. Just stop. Just stop. Really. Even if you get that higher score, it's not going to be worth anything meaningful after you've already taken it 4 times. You are going to be doing yourself a little harm because nobody likes to see the 5 scores. And really, I know you're doing better in your practice exams, but that's also when you're more relaxed. That's when you've got the home court advantage, as they say, right? So no more. Please, I beg of you. Thank you. Okay. Here is the last question. How does the University of Michigan Law School view withdrawals, especially if it is just one withdrawal on a transcript of a relatively high-performing student? I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you. This is from, this seems like an identifiable name, so I'm not going to say the name. So first, one withdrawal is not a problem. You don't need to explain that. You may want to for some reason, like if it's something significant in some way. I don't think explaining one grade or one thing is a big deal in any possible way, but it's absolutely not necessary. My main reason for wanting to read this question, though, and putting it last is because now we're in the grammar realm, right? The word is withdrawal. WITHDRAWAL. Not, make sure that A is in there. That's last A. Don't say withdrawal like drawl, like you're a southern drawl. No, it's withdrawal. I don't know what to say about that, but I feel very strongly people get it wrong all the time, like all the time. So, because it's obviously a word that comes up a lot in admissions where people are writing to withdraw their applications. So please, when you are mentioning the word withdrawal, make sure it has an AL at the end. That's a solid grammar tip. And yeah, I think that is all I have today. What do I say now? I say thank you, everybody, for writing in. I'm so excited to get this energy and these questions. This is like so great. I'm really excited to be back and doing this. And thank you to Dustin for collecting them all together for me. Very, very, very helpful. Please continue to, call and write. So you can email us at law.jd.admissions@umich.edu or put your questions below. And if I can get to them, I definitely will. So thank you. And thanks to Dustin, and wherever you go, go blue.